Senator, I wanted to ask you, there was a little bit of news about the Johnson-Crapo housing finance reform. Tell us about this bill that you've teamed up with Democrat Tim Johnson of South Dakota on.
Yeah, there's some attacks going on against that bill, so I'm glad you asked about it. This is actually a bill that reforms Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the big housing giants that the federal government has taken control of and bailed out. And essentially what it does is it winds down Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, takes them basically out of existence, and creates a new system in which private sector capital is what funds our housing markets. And it protects the taxpayer from future bailouts by having strong mortgage underwriting and essentially gets the government out of the business of running our mortgage markets. Right now, with the government controlling Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we have the government essentially managing 95% of the mortgages in the United States.
Yeah.
And we've got to get the government out of the business of our mortgage industry.
Now, the Heritage Foundation, they've come out against it, which you and the Heritage Foundation are probably pretty close on a lot of issues. Were you a little bit surprised at their opposition and some other conservative groups' opposition to your bill?
Yeah, there are a couple of conservative groups that have come out against it, although the majority of the response has been very positive. The reason they didn't like the bill is because what we do in the bill is we continue to have the government guarantee of the system, which they don't like. They don't like to have any government involvement at all. And ideally, I agree with that, except that in this circumstance, you can't continue to have the 30-year fixed mortgage if you don't have the system we put together. So what we did was we put significant private capital in front of that government guarantee to the point that we could go through a housing crisis 2.5 times as bad as the one we just went through before there would be any risk to the federal government and to the taxpayer. In fact, the analysts are saying that the risk is virtually zero, that anything could ever happen. But by setting it up that way, we make it so that we can continue to have a strong 30-year fixed-rate mortgage for Americans to invest in. The only country in the world, really, that has that kind of a strong housing system.